Even though Young-hee was North Korea's most beautiful interpreter, she was ordered to remove her wedding ring whenever she received foreign dignitaries. Besides her regular interpreting duties, whenever she encountered powerful foreign guests, she also had to endure the humiliation of accepting assignments she never wanted.
갓나새끼 밝히길. 접대하라.
After one such night, Young-hee dragged her exhausted body home, and her husband, Jong-sung, simply told her to shower first, as though it were nothing unusual. As a hero entrusted with a vital mission for his country, Jong-sung knew perfectly well that their bodies did not belong to them.
평양에서 아무 연락 없습니까?
무슨 연락?
우리 돌아갈 때가 훨씬 지났는데.
우린 결정하는 사람들이 아니야. 지시를 따르는 사람들이지.
3 years earlier, Jong-sung and his wife had been assigned to the North Korean embassy in Berlin. On the surface, it was an official diplomatic mission, but behind closed doors, it was conducting secret business. Because North Korea had long been isolated by the international community, the embassy had been secretly selling weapons to earn foreign currency for the country. Jong-sung's duty was to monitor everyone at the embassy, including his own wife. But lately, Young-hee had been acting increasingly strange, with some claiming she had already switched sides and intelligence suggesting that she was preparing to defect to the United States. To uncover the truth and clear his wife's name, this fiercely loyal national hero unexpectedly exposed an even darker secret among North Korea's leadership. And it all began with one final arms deal. That day, Jong-sung represented his country in a deal arranged through a Russian middleman with an Arab anti-American alliance. The Arab leader believed the deal was perfectly concealed. But just as the two sides reached an agreement and prepared to transfer the payment, a team of Mossad agents raided the scene. One of the Mossad agents stated bluntly that they were only there to capture the Arabs and had no interest in the arms deal. Hearing this, Jong-sung immediately withdrew from the scene. Because Jong-sung's identity remained secret, North Korea's weapons sales would never be exposed as long as he avoided capture. But when he reached the rooftop and prepared to escape, a South Korean agent suddenly appeared, knocked him down, and aimed a cold gun barrel directly at him. The man was Young Jin-soo of South Korea's National Intelligence Service, which meant the South Koreans had been secretly monitoring the North's activities all along. But Jong-sung had no intention of surrendering without a fight.
남쪽에선 관전오래 겨누라고 배우나?
거래 내역하고 거래 물건만 확인하면 된다.
고개만 돌리면 총알은 빗나가.
알았으니까 일단 가자고.
In the blink of an eye, Jong-sung dismantled the gun. After taking Jin-soo down, Jong-sung quickly escaped to safety. Afterward, Ambassador Ri Hak-soo and Jong-sung analyzed what had happened and concluded that someone on the inside must have leaked the deal, which was why the South Koreans and Mossad had suddenly appeared. In an instant, everyone became suspicious of everyone else. The embassy's chain of command was deliberately designed that way. Although Ambassador Ri was officially the highest-ranking person at the North Korean embassy, everything he did was secretly monitored by Jong-sung, and Jong-sung himself was being watched by North Korea's State Security Department. Everyone watched everyone else, using one another while remaining constantly on guard. Under such intense pressure, North Korea's leaders would immediately notice if anyone even considered betraying them. But the North Korean government was deeply unhappy about the failed arms deal. Even as they spoke, Pyongyang had already dispatched a special investigator to Berlin. That investigator was Dong Myung-soo, a former student of Jong-sung's. Myung-soo was ruthless and skilled with poison, allowing him to quietly eliminate almost anyone. As soon as he arrived in Berlin, Myung-soo arranged a meeting with Ambassador Ri. He showed Ri a video of a foreign woman who had served them when they met the foreign guests that night. After being subjected to a brutal interrogation, the waitress confessed that the female interpreter had ordered her to record the conversation and pass the recording to the South Koreans. All suspicion immediately fell on Young-hee. Myung-soo also warned that if they could not uncover the truth within 3 days, even Jong-sung would face punishment from Pyongyang. Thinking back over Young-hee's recent words and behavior, Jong-sung began to have doubts. What he did not know was that Young-hee had also been unable to sleep that night. The next day, after Young-hee left, Jong-sung immediately accessed the embassy's surveillance system. He hoped to find some clue by examining his wife's activities at work. but he found nothing useful, so during the lunch break, he secretly followed her to learn where she was going. Jong-sung called and pretended that he wanted to meet her for lunch, but Young-hee said she needed to visit a library to research some materials. When Jong-sung saw that she was about to get off the train, he immediately checked the buildings near the station. There was no library anywhere near that subway station. Young-hee was clearly lying. She remained extremely cautious as she walked, repeatedly glancing behind her. Then Jong-sung discovered that the American embassy was located near the station. Soon afterward, he saw Young-hee talking to a foreign man for a long time. Her suspicious behavior left Jong-sung devastated. He rushed home and searched every corner of the apartment, knowing that if Young-hee truly had betrayed her country, she would have left some evidence behind. But he found nothing suspicious, only a family photograph of the three of them still resting quietly inside a drawer. Could Young-hee really be planning to abandon her family and escape to the United States? Just then, the doorbell rang, and the visitor was Myung-soo. Seeing the apartment in complete disarray, Myung-soo mocked Jong-sung, saying that if he could not even keep his own wife under control, he had no right to call himself a hero of the Republic. Then, while lewdly handling Young-hee's underwear, Myung-soo revealed that someone at the embassy had applied for political asylum in the United States. Believing that he meant Young-hee, Jong-sung quickly hid the camera's memory card, but Myung-soo then revealed that the person seeking political asylum was actually Ambassador Ri. Ri had suddenly fled with the embassy's secret account information only moments earlier. Intelligence indicated that he was heading for the American embassy. Jong-sung suspected that Ri must have persuaded Young-hee to join him, so he immediately drove off in pursuit. But when Jong-sung reached the scene, he found North Korean, American, and South Korean forces all gathered in the square. He knew that only by capturing Ri first could he clear his wife's name. Jong-sung quickly took down Ri's pursuers and intercepted the ambassador at the far end of a tunnel. But just as he prepared to take Ri away, a CIA operative arrived. Fortunately, Myung-soo appeared at that moment and shot the American. Jin-soo also followed the gunfire and found them. With Myung-soo covering him, Jong-sung left first with Ambassador Ri. During the few minutes they spent alone, Ri secretly told Jong-sung that Myung-soo had framed him and that the entire situation involved an enormous political conspiracy. Knowing that Myung-soo would soon return, Ri gave Jong-sung a mysterious code phrase.
종성아, 바다에서 막힐 때는 아리랑을 반음 낮춰 부르고 후렴구는 휘바람을 부르라.
Moments later, Myung-soo walked in. Jong-sung did not know whether to trust Ri or Myung-soo, so he could only watch as Ri recorded a confession and Myung-soo silenced him with a poison needle. But Ri's death did nothing to clear Young-hee's name. Once it was over, Jong-sung rushed home and confronted his wife. With her movements that day exposed and Jong-sung staring at her coldly, Young-hee finally revealed the truth. She had secretly gone to an obstetrics clinic. What Jong-sung did not know was that Young-hee was 2 months pregnant. Because she had repeatedly been forced to use her body to obtain intelligence, she was afraid Jong-sung would believe the baby was not his. The foreign man she had spoken to was merely a tourist asking for directions. To prove it, Young-hee showed Jong-sung her ultrasound report.
뱃속에는 우리 아입니다.
To reassure their government of their loyalty, they had left their newborn daughter behind in North Korea. Later, when Young-hee was made to use her body for intelligence, Jong-sung had pretended not to see it. Now he was even accusing her of treason, leaving Young-hee utterly heartbroken. Just then, Myung-soo suddenly called. He loudly congratulated Jong-sung, saying that his willingness to personally denounce his own wife proved he had passed the Republic's test, and that state security agents would soon arrive to take her away. Jong-sung had no idea what he was talking about, but it was clearly Myung-soo's attempt to turn the couple against each other. Young-hee was listening to their conversation through another phone.
선생은 평양으로 가서 그 축하받고 새로 올린 계급장 차고 다시 나올 겁니다. 축하드립니다. 총님 나까지 살리셔서.
어디까지 들었어?
당신은 비겁해.
Jong-sung suddenly remembered what Ambassador Ri had said and realized that if Myung-soo truly was framing them, he must have left some evidence behind. Thinking back to Myung-soo's actions earlier that day, Jong-sung searched the underwear he had handled and found a mysterious USB drive hidden inside. he also discovered a listening device at the base of the wall. No wonder Myung-soo knew everything happening inside their home. Realizing the truth, Jong-sung quickly turned on the stereo, knocked on the bathroom door, signaled for Young-hee to remain silent, and wrote the word bugged on the mirror. He used a pen to explain that he had never reported her and that Myung-soo had framed them for everything. At that moment, the doorbell rang, and 2 state security agents had arrived. Sure enough, as soon as they entered, they headed straight for the evidence hidden in Young-hee's underwear, but Jong-sung had already removed it.
이거 찾네?
After swiftly taking down both men, Jong-sung prepared to flee immediately with his wife, but armed pursuers had already blocked the exit downstairs. Jong-sung had no choice but to take Young-hee back into the apartment. He gave her their only handgun and told her to escape through the window while he stayed behind alone to hold off the attackers. Wearing high heels, Young-hee carefully stepped onto the unstable ledge, but a loose board slipped and alerted the attacker. As the attacker moved closer to the window, Jong-sung suddenly charged him. Although Jong-sung had no gun, he used the surroundings to fight back, turning even a can of food into a weapon. Outside the window, Young-hee was trying to reach the neighboring building when her foot suddenly slipped and her body plunged downward. At the last possible moment, she managed to grab hold of a metal panel. That panel finally gave Young-hee somewhere to place her feet. Standing on an outdoor air conditioning unit, she carefully extended one long, stocking-clad leg before leaping onto the neighbor's balcony. Inside the apartment, Jong-sung and the attacker remained locked in a brutal struggle, and the longer it continued, the worse Jong-sung's chances became. Jong-sung finally smashed through the window, and a tempered glass canopy below cushioned his fall. Seeing the attacker above still firing at Jong-sung, Young-hee shot back. Her first few shots missed and exposed her position. Fortunately, her final shot struck the attacker, but it also caused him to lose his balance and crash onto the canopy below. The entire sheet of tempered glass began to crack and collapse, leaving Jong-sung without support and sending him falling again. Despite the intense pain, he managed to land safely. After learning that the operation had failed, Myung-soo devised another vicious plan. Knowing that the North Korean agents were no match for Jong-sung, he decided to redirect someone else's fury toward him. He called a group of Arabs whose bearded leader was the younger brother of the anti-American alliance leader from the original arms deal. Myung-soo told him that Jong-sung had leaked the arms deal to Mossad, causing his older brother to be executed without a trial. The Arabs flew into a rage and issued an order to hunt down Jong-sung and Young-hee. Members of the group spread across the city and immediately began searching for them. By then, Jong-sung and his wife were hiding in a small hotel. As always, Young-hee carefully bandaged Jong-sung's wounds. When her delicate hands passed over his muscular waist, the atmosphere in the bathroom grew intimate. But only seconds later, Jong-sung inserted the mysterious USB drive into a computer. Using Ambassador Ri's earlier clue, he successfully cracked the account password. The account contained an astonishing $4 billion. The truth behind the entire affair finally began to emerge. The real power behind the Berlin embassy was Myung-soo's father, General Dong. Dong Yoon-ho was not originally aligned with the new leadership, but he secured his position by managing the profits from illegal arms deals for them, while the secret $4 billion account was actually controlled by him and his allies. The CIA had unexpectedly discovered the $4 billion account. If the secret account were fully exposed, Dong Yoon-ho could lose everything in the ongoing power struggle. So General Dong and his son devised a solution by making everyone at the Berlin embassy their scapegoats. Ambassador Ri had discovered what the father and son were planning, which was why he tried to escape. At last, the entire truth was clear. If Jong-sung returned to Pyongyang and explained everything, every suspicion against him and Young-hee would be erased. But could General Dong really be brought down so easily? Just then, the Arabs located the hotel. They blocked the entrance and unleashed a barrage of gunfire into the room. If Jong-sung had to choose whose life came first, it would always be Young-hee and the child inside her. To protect his family, Jong-sung laid down his weapon and allowed the Arabs to take them away. But when the elevator doors opened, Jin-soo was standing inside. The Arabs did not know who Jin-soo was, so he calmly played along without exposing himself. but as they headed down the stairs, Jin-soo suddenly drew his gun, and a shootout erupted in the stairwell. Jong-sung immediately tried to seize a weapon, but afraid that Young-hee might be caught in the crossfire, he was forced to let the Arabs take her away. Trying to reach the ground floor before the elevator, Jong-sung jumped down the stairwell as quickly as he could. By the time he ran outside, he was still one step too late and could only watch helplessly as Young-hee disappeared from sight. Jin-soo then aimed his gun at Jong-sung, but after a moment, he lowered it. He played a recording for Jong-sung. It revealed that Myung-soo had been the one who leaked the arms deal to Mossad. Jin-soo wanted to understand why a North Korean agent would sabotage his own country's operation. With Young-hee's fate unknown, Jong-sung realized that the only force capable of helping him rescue her was his former enemy, South Korea. He called Myung-soo. Myung-soo ordered him to bring the account information immediately. To threaten Jong-sung, Myung-soo fired into the air and pressed the scorching gun barrel against Young-hee's body. Jong-sung had no choice but to tell Jin-soo the entire story. If South Korea helped him rescue Young-hee, Jong-sung would defect to the south and hand over the $4 billion account. After they reached the location, Jin-soo urgently called headquarters for backup, but headquarters refused to take such a dangerous risk over an account that might not even be real. That left only these two desperate men to carry out the rescue.
난 당신이 목숨을 건 이유가 다 이해가 안 돼요.
내일이니까.
네, 안 해요. 나도 아내를 구하는데.
After nightfall, Jin-soo fitted Jong-sung with a hidden earpiece. Their plan was for Jong-sung to enter the building and rescue the hostage while Jin-soo provided long-range support from outside. But as soon as Jong-sung reached the entrance, an electric baton knocked him down, and the hidden earpiece immediately lost its signal. Inside, the Arabs were eager to avenge their leader, but Myung-soo stopped them at the last moment. Before Jong-sung could be killed, Myung-soo still needed him to surrender the account and record a confession. Speaking as his former teacher, Jong-sung pleaded with Myung-soo one last time to spare him and his wife. Myung-soo only responded with even colder ridicule. Then, while arrogantly playing Jong-sung's recorded confession in front of everyone, Myung-soo triggered an unexpected turn of events. The recording was actually the conversation Myung-soo had previously held with Mossad. Myung-soo tried to stop it, but the suddenly enlightened Arabs restrained him because their leader wanted to hear who the real informant was.
If we ambush the deal you is onto with Asim, then you will have the justified reason to replace the current officials, right?
Right. So finally, you Israelis will have Yuri and Asim. Like you've been wanting. We can hand them over.
내를 항상 그랬지. 넌 성격이 급해서 결정적일 때 실수한다고.
넌 네가 다 가진 줄 알지? 넌 공화국 영웅 행사다 이꼴 됐어. 좋은 선생이었던 건 인정하고.
Myung-soo used Jong-sung's signature move to dodge a bullet before shooting the Arab leader dead. At the same moment, Jin-soo fired a flashbang into the building. Jong-sung seized the opportunity to free Young-hee while Jin-soo supported him from outside. Seeing that neither side was paying attention to him, Jong-sung shot a gas cylinder and escaped from the room with his wife. After the enormous explosion, only Myung-soo and one of his men remained alive. From a distance, Jin-soo shot Myung-soo's subordinate, but the relentless Myung-soo grabbed an AK rifle and unleashed a barrage of gunfire at Jong-sung. While covering Jong-sung, Jin-soo was struck in the leg. Jong-sung and Young-hee desperately ran toward the field of reeds ahead. If they could reach the reeds, they would be able to escape, but after only a few steps, Young-hee collapsed to the ground. A bullet had passed through her abdomen. Jong-sung pressed his hands against the wound, but Young-hee used her last strength to tell him to leave her behind because it was the only way he might survive. Hearing Myung-soo's gunfire nearby, Jong-sung decided to stop running. He threw rocks toward Myung-soo to misdirect him with the sounds and force him to waste his ammunition. Once both men had emptied their guns, they began their final hand-to-hand fight. They used the same techniques and matched each other move for move. But Myung-soo's youth and ferocity threatened to overwhelm his former teacher. After pinning Jong-sung beneath him, Myung-soo pulled out a poison needle, but Jong-sung had been waiting for that exact moment, and he trapped Myung-soo's arm between his thighs before kicking him away. Jong-sung forcibly broke Myung-soo's fingers and drove the poison needle into his throat. Even as death approached, Myung-soo made one final threat by invoking his powerful father, but Jeon-sung no longer had a country or a home. So what did he have left to fear? Myung-soo met the fate he deserved, dying from the very poisoned needle he had mastered. By the time Jeon-sung returned to Young-hee, she was already in her final moments. She desperately wanted Jeon-sung to take her home, but their home had become a distant place they could never return to. Jeon-sung had once been the Republic's proudest warrior, but in the end, the very country he had served cost him his wife and completely destroyed his family. Afterward, Jeon-sung applied to defect to South Korea and turned over information about the secret $4 billion account. But just as the process was nearing completion, the South Korean government suddenly reversed its decision. During a visit to Russia, the South Korean president had announced a new natural gas pipeline project, but the plan could not move forward without Pyongyang's cooperation. Pyongyang's final condition was that South Korea hand over Jeon-sung and the secret account. Even more ironically, the man who had brokered the agreement was Myung-soo's father, Dong Young-ho. Instead of being held accountable for his earlier conspiracy, Dong Young-ho used the deal to secure his position once again. Faced with this harsh reality, Jin-soo became completely disillusioned, but during the transfer, he deliberately forced Jeon-sung out of the car, secretly giving him a chance to escape. Jin-soo warned Jeon-sung that from then on, he would have to live under a false identity and remain as unnoticed as an ant because continuing to seek revenge would only get him killed. In a world ruled by power, justice seemed nowhere to be found. But sometime later, Dong Young-ho's phone suddenly rang, and the caller was Jeon-sung. In the end, Jeon-sung refused to heed Jin-soo's warning to seek justice for himself and his late wife. He decided to go after the enemy who had been pulling the strings. Jeon-sung then bought a one-way ticket to Vladivostok.